It's a problem all over the country. Hog farms in the Carolinas and Iowa, poultry farms in Arkansas and Texas, cattle farms in Wisconsin and along the Susquehanna River in Pennsylvania.
In terms of just damage to the ecosystems, the destruction of entire ecosystems, of aquatic communities, of fish going extinct, there's nothing as bad as these factory farm operations, nothing.
So to save the bay, the EPA says it's essential to get control over the animal manure. What's made that hard is deciding just who's responsible for all that manure. To understand how the chicken business is organized and how it's run, I checked in with Carol Morrison, a successful Purdue grower for many years.
Typically, the farmer has a contract with the company, whether it be Purdue, Tyson, whoever, and you contract to raise their chickens. They own the chickens. They just drop them off on the farm for us to raise to a marketable age. And then they come and pick up the chickens, take them for processing.
When Purdue required that Morrison modernize her chicken houses at a cost of $150,000 or more, she decided to get out of the business. This is her last batch of Purdue chickens. Now, what's the relationship here? Do you bargain with one company or another as a grower?
There's no bargaining in the contracts. Contracts are designed by the company, brought out to the farm, and you either sign it and get chickens or not sign it and not get chickens and ultimately lose the farm.
So you're saying that the processors dictate the terms. They run the show.
Yes, the processors dictate all of the terms.
The terms are very specific. The big chicken companies own the chickens, supply the feed, dictate the growing regimen, do all the processing. They own it all, except the chicken waste.
Well, anybody else who owns an animal is responsible for their waste. If the company owns the animal, why are they not responsible for their waste? I've never understood that. I have horses, I have a dog that's outside, I'm responsible for their mess. Now, chickens are owned by these companies like Purdue and Tyson. How is it they're not responsible for it?
Help me understand one thing. How do you wind up by owning the chickens, owning the feed, and not owning, in the sense of legal responsibility, the manure?
The manure is considered a resource, actually. The producers want the litter. They want the chicken litter. It's not a matter of who owns or doesn't own it. It's a matter of what use is it being made from it.
As factory farming has grown, the volume of excess manure has mushroomed, and there's been an increasing push to regulate farm pollution. But American agriculture has fought off pollution controls for 3 decades.
The whole agricultural community has remained maybe the last big or the biggest unregulated, largely unregulated area of water pollution. And it's why EPA tells you across the country agriculture is responsible for 60% or something like that of our water quality problems.
We are talking the equivalent of medium-sized cities in terms of the waste that is generated that is virtually untreated going into the Chesapeake Bay. And
so cities have their waste treated, go through water treatment plants. Farming, agriculture, these concentrated animal raising operations, they're not treated the same way.
That is absolutely correct.
The Delmarva poultry industry on the Bay's eastern shore doesn't see it that way. It contends that there's a fundamental difference between industrial pollution or urban sewage and agricultural waste. Industry spokesman Bill Satterfield. Shouldn't the poultry farms be subject to the same kind of limitations that sewage treatment plants or industrial plants?
A small industrial site that has to have a permit knows the source of what goes into that pipe. With non-point source pollution, there are various ways that nutrients can get into the groundwater and maybe flow through that pipe. Farm fields are not...
I'm not talking about fields. I'm talking about growers and sheds where, I've literally stood in front of farms and I've literally looked at chicken houses I've seen pipes coming into the drainage ditches, coming from ditches between the chicken houses. The source visibly is quite clear.
To know where those nutrients came in would require an investigation. And if the pipe passed under a chicken house and started over here in a field, who's to say what entered that pipe on that end? Who's to say whether the nutrients, if there are any, came from chickens or fox or deer or birds or something else?
Russell Long, famous senator from Louisiana, used to say when people gave an answer like that, it's not you, it's not me, it's that guy behind the tree. It seems to me as though every time we get to this, even though the evidence is pointing to most highest concentrations right near agricultural poultry operations, you're saying, well, it could be the foxes or the geese.
If there were proof positive that those nutrients are from chickens, then we can accelerate our programs and do a better job. But we can't solve all the river's problems with all the people, all the growth, all the other animals on the back of the chicken and the poultry farmers.
I'll be the first one to say, I did it. I've said this before, we're all part of it. And yes, I think agriculture is a big contributor to the pollution, to the runoff into the Chesapeake Bay. The industry knows it. What I am tired of is everyone wasting all their time and energy and saying, I didn't do it. I did it. Why can't they admit it? I mean, you know, let's all say, okay, we're a part of it. Now let's find an answer.
All in favor of adopting the conference committee report signify by saying aye. Opposed, no.
But finding an answer has been politically impossible.
Bill 178 is on third reading. The clerk
In the late 1990s, a bill went before the Maryland legislature to require mandatory nutrient management by farmers to curb runoff from chicken manure. Big Chicken didn't like that idea at all.
I think the survival of the poultry industry is at stake on the Eastern Shore.
The poultry industry, among the most financially powerful lobbies in Maryland, pushed for a looser alternative.
The alternative was to have voluntary goals. It was going to be cooperative, it was going to have no regulatory teeth, and it was going to be overseen by the Maryland Department of Agriculture, a non-regulatory agency, rather than the Maryland Department of Environment.
The farming industry cannot live with mandatory nutrient regulations. We've got to keep it voluntary.
And the industry bill won. And since then, the industry has been successful in blocking or tying up subsequent efforts to regulate their waste. You sat in the Maryland legislature for 12 years. During that period, did you see the big chicken companies steadily resist regulation on manure runoff?
Absolutely. Big chicken companies were a presence. Jim Perdue, the son of Frank Perdue, was a constant presence. Whether he was sitting in my chairman's office or holding a reception in the evening or whatever, the chicken lobby was well represented. They hired the top guns in the lobbying community in Annapolis, and they made every effort to prevent us from enacting tough regulations on agriculture.
Some people have said to us that you'd clean up the whole situation much faster if the integrators, the poultry processors, were responsible. You got to clean it up, and you all are responsible.
Well, we can only do what we can do. The farmer certainly is his own businessman out there on the farm, and I think it works better if it's a cooperative effort.
So Perdue pioneered a process to recycle part of the chicken growers' excess manure to ship it across the country. And Perdue launched a voluntary program to teach its growers better manure management. Then the programs that we're looking at are an alternative to more regulation, I guess.
And more regulation and enforcement, which nobody likes. I mean, nobody likes, somebody coming onto your farm, without any warning and those kinds of things.
There's no question that the influence of the agricultural farm lobby in general has had a very successful role in limiting the amount of pollution control regulations that we see in the Chesapeake Bay watershed or nationwide.
You know, corporations are externalizing machines. They're constantly devising ways to get somebody else to pay their cost of production. And, you know, if you're in a polluting industry, the most obvious way to do that is to shift your cleanup costs to the public. Make yourself a billionaire by poisoning the rest of us.
Are you saying the market's distorted?
You show me a polluter, I'll show you a subsidy.
Chicken farmers bristled when the Obama EPA started demanding pollution discharge permits this spring. The industry claims it's already doing enough.
The poultry industry is doing more every year. We're seeing more best management practices on farms. Our program to put trees on poultry farms to uptake the nutrients is a very progressive thing. There are more and more programs offered to help farmers put in manure storage buildings. And as the science says we can do more without putting our people out of business, I'm sure we will do more.
But environmentalists like Rick Dove remain skeptical.
Now, this industry says they're doing better. And, you know, I can't say if that's true or false. But I can tell you that what I'm seeing here on the ground right now is absolutely terrible. So if it was worse before, then I can understand why the Bay is in such bad trouble.